dalla Ferrari, immaginare lì, non era quel Ferrari, شيء vera, complimenti فيها ليك. عندهم الزواج منطقي ممكن يعرفوا يعطي المنستر وصلوا عليه يعني تبعوا وده نسكوبي اللي كان Ferrari من دول Ferrari.
Eigentlich Peter Report,
I'd like to apologize, but we have a bit of a time schedule, so I'd appreciate if you continue enjoying your breakfast. Few people have been held up in traffic, usual circumstances in our island when we have the rain. So we'll proceed with our presentation. I'd like to welcome the Honourable Prime Minister, the Parliamentary Secretary, distinguished guests, friends, colleagues, and members of the media. I welcome you to this business breakfast organized by the Malta Motorsport Federation. The theme being a motorsport complex, with a difference. Many were those that have previously embarked on this issue, myself included, on various occasions. Unfortunately, all our efforts were overlooked. Was it a misconception? Taboo about motorsport? One has to think about that. Apparently the people at the back are not getting my voice well. The recent excellent results attained overseas by our local motorsport competitors have somewhat rekindled the idea. How can these athletes perform so well when they have hardly the place to park their vehicles, let alone practice their sport, and thus ensure further excellent results? The MMF, through its perseverance and also with a different perspective, reviewed its idea of a motorsport complex. And this morning, together with our distinguished speakers, we'll be challenging the mentality that motorsport can be dangerous by creating, however, a synergy between motorsport and road safety. Presently, the situation is somewhat brighter. With due respect to all the politicians, definitely it's not a case that we're amid an election campaign. But we have looked at the project with a different perspective. To illustrate more this project, we have 3 presentations. At the end of these 3 presentations, we'll have a Q&A, plus any comments or endorsements of what has been stated. We promise you that by 10 o'clock, we should be finished, let alone the coffee would definitely have gone cold by that time. Our first speaker is Mr. Peter Hansen. His expertise in track layout and management has regenerated ideas and how best to tackle track layouts, especially on an island like ours, where land is definitely a premium. Peter has been involved in various F1 track layouts, working closely with, nonetheless, Herman Tilke, the current F1 track architecture consortium. I'd like to invite Peter Hansen to come up and do his presentation.
Good morning. My name is Peter Hansen. International Motorsports Management are international consultants to Malta Motorsports Federation. And we are working with the MMF on strategies, conceptual planning and feasibility for the development of the motoring complex in Malta. Malta Motorsports Federation is affiliated with the FIA, the International Motoring Federation. The FIA regulates international motorsport, and mostly when you hear or read about the FIA, it has something to do with Formula One. The FIA is much more than that. as the organization invests a very significant amount of the money it gets from motorsport into road safety, research and development, and this also benefits its members in each country. The MMF is the sole recognized and affiliated body of the FIA in Malta. This project is not only about road safety and motorsport. It is about a multi-purpose facility which will serve the community as a whole, including new employment and education opportunities. Moreover, it will also provide opportunities for the tourism industry, as events-based tourism is a growing market. We are mindful of the social responsibility we have in developing such a facility, and people from all walks of life will have access to the facilities. The circuit will be open to the public at set times, probably most evenings. Anyone can come and drive their own car in a controlled environment for a small fee. This is very important as it provides a venue for people to try to hone their skills as drivers. But more importantly, it is also a place where anybody can drive at speed. Unfortunately, we see a lot of illegal racing on our public roads. Not only is it a nuisance, it is also dangerous, but people have nowhere else to go, and we need to change that. Driving schools is another matter. Driving instructors have no facilities other than public roads where they can teach people to drive. They also use parking lots, and using a parking lot may teach people to drive around cones and park cars neatly, but that's all. It is fundamental that in order to obtain a driving license, a certain amount of time must be spent on a driving course in a purpose-built facility where people can learn defensive driving and how a vehicle reacts in different conditions. For example, someone who gets a driving license in May, having only ever driven on dry roads, will have no idea what it is like to drive on our slippery roads when the heavy rain comes in October, or for that matter, on a day like today. And they are likely to be accident prone as a result. If they have gone through a course in the training center, they would also have been on the wet surface area, and they would understand the danger and be much more likely to avoid being in accidents. Road accidents can be costly, both in money terms and traumatic terms. Hospitalization and insurance becomes involved, a direct and indirect cost to the society and individuals, and it is a society and government responsibility to do something about it. Simple as that. As a whole, this is also a great opportunity for Transport Malta, and maybe even some of their facilities could be located at the site. But of course, this is a discussion for another day. As we intend to build a multi-purpose motoring complex for road safety and motorsport, one of the first public concerns is noise from the motorsport activities. The truth is that with reasonable sound reducing measures in place, this is not an issue. Normal motorsport activities have noise restrictions in place, and if correctly built, such a motoring complex will not generate more noise than a normal highway does. We expect the project to be privately funded, and in order to attract investors, it must obviously be a financially viable proposition. This is why it needs to be an all-inclusive motoring complex. It is not financially viable to only have a driver training complex or a motor racing circuit. It must be both in order to be viable, and more than that, there must be various leisure facilities and attractions and other building facilities from which revenue can be generated. This project is likely to generate more than 30 million euro annually in direct economic benefits to Malta because of the additional economic activity it will generate. The indirect economic benefits in terms of media exposure are also likely to be substantial in helping Malta to further enhance its spot on the world map. We've discussed land allocation with the government, and we hope to take up those discussions again in earnest immediately after the election. At the moment, we are not able to pinpoint a specific location, as this must first be discussed in more detail with the government. MMF has worked on this project for quite some time and had many meetings with various government departments. We have also produced a substantial amount of briefing documentation, including project description and expectations. Now we ask the government to act, as we do not want this to drag on forever. We need to move forward. Malta badly needs such a motoring complex, especially to provide driver training, so we can get better and safer drivers on the road, which is a just and reasonable expectation of modern society. The land allocation for this project must be fast-tracked by the government as a priority. This also includes various assessments and relevant permits. It is no longer sufficient just to talk and make favorable comments on this being a good idea. It is time for action. For each day we wait, we are exposed to dangers and road accidents which could potentially be avoided if we had the right facilities. Thank you.
After Peter's presentation, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm sure that most of the things are all close at heart, but it's time to act. Time has passed. I believe that over these years we've lost a lot of good opportunities, even from foreign investments, and I think it's time that we really act. And I think this new idea, that the way that we're looking at this complex, maybe it's a bit different from what we've been stated earlier, but for sure, we definitely have people on board who maybe looked at motorsport in a different concept. We move on now to our second presentation. We have nonetheless Mr. Norbert Filippic. I hope I've pronounced his surname well. It's a bit complicated. That's what he's been telling me yesterday. He's a professional instructor and driver teacher. Between 2003 and 2006, he was managing director of 2 driving safety centers in Austria. In 2007, he joined Test and Training International, supporting the company as member of management. Test and Training International has become the world-leading provider of road safety training, with numerous road safety training centers in Austria and beyond. Franz Wurz, which we welcome him here, the mastermind behind Test and Training International, who is also present, had a successful career as a rally and rallycross driver. Franz de Guara, please note. With several, spent over different titles within his European titles. Franz has spent 20 years running Test and Training International. It's good to know that all those that follow Formula One, like myself and Angelita is here, Alexander Wurz, ex-Formula One driver for Benetton, McLaren and Williams, also winner of the Le Mans 1996 and 2009, is his son. So we know that the pedigree was well from conception. So for sure, we're all in very good hands. I'd like to invite Norbert to do his presentation regarding what we've been discussing.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can understand me very well. You're looking all very interested, and that's very good because there are very interesting news coming up for you. As mentioned before, my task for today is to get you a little bit more interested and acquainted with the combination of road safety and motorsport and how this can be a financial and, of course, very important social benefit for your country. And before I'm going to go into any details, and don't worry, it's not going to be boring at all, I want to show you a short video, and this video is going to display the possibilities a combined motorsport and road safety facility can realize. Okay, so what you've seen right now is more or less the huge variety of possibilities which can be realized in a combined road safety and motorsport facility. And the first question which maybe can come into your mind is, how is this coming together? How can road safety help sport and how can motorsport help road safety? And the first information I want to give you is, believe me, the most important strive we are in is to save lives. You may ask yourselves how we do this, and this is the core content of my presentation. So, the proposal of a facility in Malta is really to implement road safety and education in terms of behavioral education of drivers, and therefore motorsport can help as a role model for those who are doing it right in terms of safety, to help drivers to understand why using seatbelts, why using helmets, why driving slow in some areas whatsoever, because race drivers do this, of course. And the other way around, motorsport drivers can benefit from road safety contents. And don't want to bother you, but just some key statistics how we started. Franz Wurz, my boss, where I'm employed, he started as a one-man show on a parking lot 25 or 26 years ago. Almost not imaginable today, but since then more than 4.1 million drivers attended road safety trainings from our company, and more than 2 million children were trained, and more important, 6,200 serious accidents of young drivers were prevented. And the most important thing is we reduced the number of fatalities, not only in Austria, also in other countries like Switzerland, Luxembourg, and other countries in Europe. We're working for the FIA Institute very closely as a motorsport trainer and education staff. I personally am the master trainer for the FIA Young Driver Excellence Academy, for example, although I'm road safety trainer. And of course some racetrack design, and least not unless important is that we're running the F1 racetrack in Austria. But now back to you, back to Malta. Why is this project so important? First of all, as you can read on your own, it offers a state-of-the-art training environment. This is of course obvious. Mostly important is it can save lives. And I don't want to skip over this very important point, because to save lives should be the most important social responsibility and goal of this facility. Therefore, it increases the road safety awareness, and you will not believe how important road safety awareness is. I give you a very short example. When people come to our center, they go back home, they go to their friends and they say, you got to do this on your own. Yeah, I did not believe that. I thought I'm a good driver. There I learned that it's not that easy to control a car. They go back to their families, to their friends, and that's the most important point. Yeah? They spread over the road safety message. And it's the same with the motorsport, with the motorsport guys. They go to the track, they drive a little bit fast, they go to professional instructors, and then they learn, oh, holy, you know what I mean? Yeah? It's not that easy to get the car quick around the corner. So I thought I was a good driver, but there I learned I could be even more. So this is one very important similarity of this center, awareness. Awareness that I'm not the best. There are better out there. I have to be aware of my limits. It's an event locations for presentations and events. Don't forget the tourism effect you could create with such a facility. A lot of partners of our company, big car manufacturers like Mercedes, BMW, Audi, they're always looking for areas to present their new vehicles, and they're happy to have a facility which is new and a venue which is really exciting for them. Therefore, it creates a new business field, it creates jobs, it's a new type of infrastructure, and very important, it is a profitable business model if you know what to do. And at the end, you create 5-star drivers with anticipate things, with have a balance of their own skills, with which can control their emotions, which are aware of their problems and which are sensitive to a very important issue, especially, and that's speed. They learn that speed is the most important influence to everything they do in the car. For road safety, as you can see on this picture, and I'm very happy to say this, a facility in Malta could provide training programs for every vehicle category, starting from motorbikes, using cars, vans with their trailers, buses, trucks, and whatsoever. So there's no limitation. Multifunctional use of the training modules in the center. You can use one single area dedicated for different kind of vehicles. Children programs can be implemented in schools, in the center itself. And I want to tell you a very short but very important story. Something is missing. No. Okay, it doesn't matter. I think the beamer just popped off. Doesn't matter, but I'll tell you the story. And what happens is, when we train children, a very funny thing happens. The children got educated, for example, to use the seatbelt. And they have to sign a contract, and when they sign a contract, they go back home to their parents and they say, Mom, Dad, you signed a contract with me that from now on you will never ever drive without a seatbelt. And it's very funny. And the children, they annoy their parents to say, no, let me out of the car. If you don't use the seatbelt, I won't drive with you. So we use the children to create safety on roads. It sounds weird, but that's how it works. Yeah? Behavioral education and road safety education. Because children, they learn from the parents, and they don't learn at 18 years when they go to driving school or at 17 years. They learn from their parents. The parents are the role models. Okay, I just go on because the beamer is not working, doesn't matter. We also have a training program, of course, for every age, which means from children to young drivers up to really older people, retired people as well. Because people are getting older in our society, and due to the fact that people are getting older, the wish for mobility is increasing. So it's very important that people say, okay, I want to check, am I still okay, and so on and so forth, okay? And a very important issue I already mentioned is product presentations, society events, and whatsoever. You would not believe what we've done in a road safety training center. We held concerts, we did product presentations for vehicles, we had art and art galleries, whatsoever. It's a land space which you can rent out for different and various things. So a road safety and motorsport facility is not only a road safety and motorsport facility, it's an incentive and event location. An event location which can be used for various ideas and various realizations. All pictures and all movies you saw are realized in test and training international centers. And as you can see, here, for example, this was a Mercedes event called Lady Day, where ladies can win a vehicle, a car, whatsoever. Of course, tailored programs like this FIA e-Safety Challenge, which was realized in our headquarters in Austria and Vienna. On the left side, that's Alexander Wurz, that's the son of Franz Wurz. The guy next to him, I think you know a little bit better, that's Sebastian Vettel. And both of them are motorsport guys. And these motorsport guys, they really, really work hard for road safety, because a Formula One driver would never ever drive without his seatbelt on. A Formula One driver would never ever drive in his car without a helmet. A Formula One driver, although he's driving fast for sure, when it's raining, he slows down. It sounds stupid, but these similarities are used, these role model similarities are used for the road safety training. When people think that it's going to start to rain, like Mr. Hansen said, and I can go with the same speed, they're wrong. And that's what the role models from the motorsport are going to tell the people. Don't do this. For professional driver training, as you can see in the pictures, doesn't matter for trucks, vans, whatever. Professional drivers have a huge responsibility on roads. They carry loads, they carry people in the buses. We got tailored programs for police, firefighter, doesn't matter, military, ambulance, whatever. And motorsport is a very important issue because, as Mr. Hansen mentioned, from road safety alone, I'm not sure if a facility could be financially feasible. But combining the motorsport aspect as well, why not? Yeah? As I mentioned before, they use synergies. It's not a contradiction at all, not at all. And if you design a facility very good and very thought through, you can use karting, you can do rallycross, you can do some handling course driving, drifting competition, or motorcycling, whatever. Feel free. Some statistics, but just to understand, it's not going to be boring, I promise. What you see here is that when Mr. Franz Wurz started in 1984, he was a one-man show on a parking lot. But with the help of the Austrian Automobile Association, you know, the numbers of participants increased very much. And until the year 2002, we had 3 road safety training centers in Austria handling about 40,000 people. And then a very, very important thing happened in Austria. Together with the government in Austria, we implemented a law which enforces young people to attend a mandatory road safety training. This for the categories motorbike and car. And the deal was very simple. We built the facilities, and spread all over Austria facilities where it's possible that people attend these trainings. And so, of course, also the number of participants increased heavily. And within 2 years, the numbers from 40,000 increased to almost 130,000. And it worked out really well and reduced the number of fatalities, reduced the number of accidents, but I will come to that later on. It was simply a very, very huge success. Similar with children, as I mentioned before, we have a lot of children programs. Just keep this short. About as I said, almost 2 million people, 2 million children were trained in our facilities. This is mostly sponsored by insurance companies, which say, okay, we sponsor the game, you send the people, the schools send the people to the school. Good, and this, don't worry about the huge numbers. The only reason why I show this is that you see that since 2004 up to 2012, the numbers of participants, of course, increased, but they're very stable. So for us, that's a very good financial gain. Here's some results of the mandatory road safety training. As you can see, the young driver involved in accidents, reduction by almost 31%, and very important, reduced the number of single vehicle accidents by 33%. And that's really, really impressive for a small country like Austria. But it's not only in Austria. Here you see the results from Switzerland, which got the same mandatory training. They even could reduce it in the 20-year-old segment by minus 36%. Okay? So this is really impressive. So we're not joking around. Live, this is really possible. What you can see is, although we have a mandatory training program, it's just about 34% of our whole turnover spectrum, which means that about 2/3 of our income is spread over all other training categories, training topics, and so on. And some proof of success, when we did eco training with a company, we saved 2 million liters of fuel, which is an equivalent of 2 million euros. Yeah? Of course, 1,600 drivers, but you have to imagine that you reduce 2 million euros. And 2 million euros for every company is a big money amount. Tanker driver training, we're working for BP Europe-wide. And since they invented their cooperation with Test and Training International, after 1.5 years, they had minus 80% rollovers, which is a reduction of 1.5 million euros in their case, and minus 60%. And another example how to save money. So what I'm talking about is road safety is not only social responsibility, road safety is also a business, a big, big business. Companies understand that they can save money. People can understand that they can save life. And motorsport guys can understand their importance. Good. Just for information, this is the second part of the presentation, and then we're done. And the second part of my presentation should give you an insight of how such a facility could look like. Due to the fact that there is no land allocated so far as I know, we just put a mock-up example just to give you an impression how things could look like. And a facility in Malta, of course, could provide this state-of-the-art infrastructure which you could need. And again, as a summary, road safety and motorsport, you can read on your own the possibilities. Yeah? For motorsport, you can do races, rallycross, karting, and so on. And for road safety, driver education and examination area, that's more or less the topic which is very important. How could this look like, and how could you have multifunctional use? Of course, you got a main building. This main building could contain, reception, seminar rooms, offices, and whatsoever. You also have your training modules. In this case, the first one, don't want to go into detail, where you can learn some stabilizing your car. Another one, which is dealing with cornering. And Mr. Hansen mentioned in the morning, you drive on the dry, then it starts to rain, but you got the same corner. And this training module teaches you and learns you how to go around the corner in a safe way. And of course, also for the bike drivers and motorcycle drivers, we got dedicated areas to train. And very important, the driver education and examination area, which is a very, very helpful tool, especially for the youngsters to understand, to come there with their parents, to practice for the driving examination with a very simple goal: increase the driving time. Yeah? Because every study shows the more you drive, the better you get. For motorsport, the same facility, but just simple, different use. You can use a dedicated area as a kart track. You can have a short one and a long one. You can have a handling track where you can do product presentations, where a company gets there and says, okay, let's test the engine, let's test the brakes, the suspensions, or whatsoever. But you can use the handling track also for different things like motorsport, like drifting, and on the same time you can use the road safety part. So it's not either this or that, you also can use both things at the same time. Motorsport, rallycross, the same facility, okay? You can use it. This is the gravel area, this is the handling area. And you also could do a race of champions, as you may know from the FIA race of champions, which they do annually with Weber and Vettel and Schumacher and all the others. You can do the same here in a facility like this. Why TTI? Just some advertising for our company. We're proven, we are for sure experts, we know what we're doing. We offer sustainable facilities, which is very important for everybody who runs a company. And what's very important for you, we're very client-oriented, and everything we do is from an operator's view. I was introduced as a manager of 2 road safety training centers. Franz was the CEO of more than 10 road safety training centers in Austria and brought the idea of more than 30. We know what it takes to run a facility to be financially feasible, because I could not afford as a manager of a road safety training center to go bankrupt. That's not possible. And all our facilities are running worthwhile. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to my presentation. I hope it was interesting for you. Thanks for being here in Malta. If you have any questions later on, I'm ready on. Thanks you.
After Norbert's presentation, it was good to note that where it comes to road safety, we definitely have not neglected it. Various entities in Malta have looked at this: Transport Malta, and Malta Police, the MMF, myself as being appointed by the FIA as an Action for Road Safety official. So I think the objective is there. What we need to do is regroup. We definitely have to regroup and be stronger. And I think having a project like this will definitely help us as a community. And besides that, Norbert mentioned something: save lives. Ultimately, that's our objective, to save lives. But we always have to look at our roads. We also have to look at the cars that we drive. Unfortunately, that's another issue that for sure we'll discuss at another event. Our next speaker is Tonio Cini, President of the Malta Motorsport Federation. There's nothing to tell about Tonio Cini. He's very hard-working. Unfortunately, he works too hard for the motorsport, and I'd like to call him up to do his closing presentation.
Thank you, Pierre. Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Clyde Pooley, distinguished guests. Please allow me to start my short message to show my appreciation to Peter Hansen, who is our circuit consultant, and Norbert for this, from Testing and Training International for supporting the Federation. And after hearing these 2 presentations, we feel, MMF feel, that we are proud that we have managed to achieve so far and to bring such high-profile personalities to talk to us through such projects. My appreciation goes also to Mr. Franz Wurz and to your son, Alexander Wurz, who together we started to build this concept and during these last few weeks. The MMF has been created with one objective: unity and recognition. We all feel that this has been achieved, and this can be demonstrated by the large number of clubs and their respective members joining the federation. The interest in motorsport is ever increasing day by day, and this thanks to the collective work and the great determination of each MMF commissioner and our subcommittees in the Federation Council. An illustration of trust, where all have realized the importance of sharing our knowledge and most of all, working together. Unlike other sports, we are still searching for a place where we can exploit more the potential of our members to excel even further in motorsport. We have now gone beyond, because we are talking about a national concept, where not only the racing drivers will play, but we, the motor enthusiasts, are offering you a way forward, which we believe is the best solution for the multifunctional utilization of the land. We are aiming to have a complex which can be utilized by many, even those who have just want to learn how to improve their driving in a safer environment. That's it. One facility, 2 words. We can prepare our new driver for our roads. We can have advanced courses, as Norbert was saying earlier, mentioned, but most important, we can have a place that we can call our own. But with a difference, our own is everyone, and not that club member that wants to race on weekends only. As Peter mentioned earlier, we cannot wait for another 30 or 40 years, so that a suitable land is earmarked and committed for this project. Government needs to address this issue, and the fact that the 2 major political parties have listed in their political manifestos this target means that we are talking business. Therefore, we urge you all to analyze what have been delivered today. Seek what your company or entity can get out of this, and think positive that this project is doable. We are more than convinced that this project is doable and sustainable. But most important, it will be beneficial to a lot of people. We can help to reduce accidents, we can save lives. We can contribute in the educational sector, with the tourism sector, and the employment sector. We, the MMF, will continue with our mission to serve and enhance this wonderful sport of motorsport and this road safety concept, as soon the elections are finished. MMF is committed to keep on preparing for this project by training its officials with the support of the FIA Institute and El Conseil Maltese de Sport. And I here thank Mr. Bernard Vassallo for your support, Honorable Clyde Pooley and Mr. Angelito Chiberras for supporting the Federation and their members during these past 5 years. Our programs will continue in the coming weeks, and we have young drivers going to England to train in an international circuit there. Finally, I come to conclude to thank our main sponsor today, who is Cars International, here represented by Ryan Buttigieg and Matthew Fenech. Thank you for believing in our federation and our project. I would like to also thank Times of Malta, who also contributed a complimentary paper to each guest here, to Jackstream, who are filming this breakfast, and all those who are supporting and believing in this project. In conclusion, also to the Honorable Prime Minister, who has accepted our invitation. Thank you also to your party, who has considered and approved this concept in your manifesto. Also to Alternativa Democratica, here represented by Perit Carmen Cocopardo, who we met and we discussed at length this issue, and they also are supporting this project. To the Labour Party, who unfortunately they are not here because they have another activity in the same time of this business breakfast, but they promised that they will be attending a forum that we are doing also this evening. And to each person, individual that we met in these last 2 weeks, especially Transport Malta, the motoring schools, the insurance companies, and all the others who, in a way or another, we met during these last 3 weeks. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us here. Just last word. Since this activity is under the campaign of the FIA Action for Road Safety, I am hereby asking my colleagues to distribute a letter that President Jean Todt has sent to all of you in regards to this business breakfast. So I will ask my colleagues to distribute this letter. Thank you very much.
approaching the end of our presentation. I'd like to invite you, if there are any questions, to be addressed either to Peter and Norbert. I'd like Peter and Norbert to come next to me, if possible, please. Kenneth, yes?
I just wanted to thank you first of all for the presentation. I met with Peter on other occasions. I'm just curious as to the duration, assuming there is a goal for this, what sort of duration would you anticipate for it to start and be completed?
It will not take very long to do. Once all permits are there and so on, then it would take 12 to 18 months to build the facility, or at least to have it at such a stage where we can start operating, especially the road safety facilities.
Can I supplement that with another question actually? Would it be part of the plan to have the full project or the phases?
The project may well be developed in stages, but not in many stages, because it's not something that should go on and on and on. The first stage must be at least so advanced that most of the elementary training courses and also track facilities are ready to be used.
Thank you. Motorsport, its organization.
Congratulations.
First of all, congratulations on a very intensive and interesting presentation. Over the last 60 years, I have driven personally in Catalonia, Hungary, Salzburg, about 6 times, and 8 months ago in South Africa. So I am very pro racing, especially Porsche cars. It's exciting, gets the adrenaline going, and it is a very good test for the condition of your heart. However, you spoke about road safety, but there's also the motorsport. And I'm all for road safety lessons and a school perhaps for to teach people how to drive, which we need. But the noise factor in the motor racing is a problem for more. There's too much noise already. It's a noisy island. We already have the hunters waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we cannot afford to have any more noise here in the island. How will the people around the circuit field with cars racing, as always, racing at 230 kilometers an hour, and it does make a lot of noise, I can assure you. I think yes to the school, I'm all for it, but nothing no to the racing itself. Thank you.
Okay, just to repeat your question, I think your question is how can you avoid noise pollution? Was this your question, more or less? Okay.
People feel who are living next door to the property, the price of the property will go down.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, it's not, it is tedious noise, hearing this revving up of cars going around the track.
Yeah, I fully agree.
It is a problem.
Yeah.
And I don't know, unless you sort of have a soundproof room, proper soundproof track, I can't see how this is going to be solved.
Okay, it's a very good.
I don't want to discourage you. I think it's a fantastic thing, but Malta is a very small island, and we have a problem with it.
Yeah. I'm very happy that you asked this question, because this is a very important question, first of all. I can assure you that the similar situation is in Austria and any other country in Europe, wherever you go. Okay, so whenever you build a facility like this is a very important issue. There are various ways how to solve this problem. First, of course, is a very wise and clever way of which kind of land is going to be allocated. This is the first very important issue. The second important issue, that you have a variety of measures you can implement, like restricting, for example, the days of certain racing. You can have a restriction in dB pollution, and so on and so forth. We have various facilities in various countries in Europe where things like that are solved together with the people living next door. And very important is, before you start with anything like that, discuss things with people around. And very important is to spot a land which is really perfect for things like that, where you have the least amount of noise pollution which is annoying other people around. So usually the wise thing, the wise planning in advance solves a lot of problems before you even before they even occur.
My name is Jared Zamit. Having worked closely with Tonio Cini and with Peter Hansen and some other members of the MMF, because we put up a special committee to look into the race circuit concept in Malta. To answer Horace's noise issue, it's been very clear with our discussions with the Motorsport department that the land that even they identified initially is land that is not exactly next to any residential home. So I don't see there's any issue there. One of the properties that is being earmarked for this race circuit is actually very close to the airport. So I don't think we're going to stop any airplanes from flying either. And my concern here is that everybody wants the circuit to happen. It should happen. We've all waited very long for it to happen. I know of many cases of finance people and investors that have come to Malta, ready and willing to part with the money, yet unfortunately, I'm ashamed to say that the doors of the political people that were met, both sides, I mean, we're not talking about blue, green, or red yet, that they never found the opportunity to part with their money here in Malta. I wish that whoever is in power after the 9th of March will look at this very seriously. They should look at it from a safety point of view, as highlighted here today. There's a lot of opportunities here. It can work very well hand in hand, both with road safety and motorsport. I personally am a keen car collector. I do race. I was very active with the Valletta Grand Prix. I'm disappointed again that even that race had to stop because of certain works, obviously, regarding the rehabilitation of Valletta. But even myself, participating with other foreigners that came to Malta, they compared our circuit around Valletta with Monaco. Now, there's an activity that happens every other year in Monaco. It's called Historic Monaco. And basically, this is something that, again, one should revive. Unfortunately, I moved to Udina. It's not quite Valletta. Valletta is a great city. We've got cultural year coming up, and we should do something about that as well. Thank you very much.
I thank you. Jared, one comment. Monaco is not Malta, but they do racing there. And I believe there's a Formula 1 race. So I don't think that Malta is going to be an issue when it comes to noise. Just one comment. We get 3 o'clock people shooting birds in the sky. So for sure, let's get this project done with. To conclude our presentation, I'd like to ask Dr. Gonzi to take the podium to share with us a bit of words to conclude this interesting business breakfast.
Thank you very much. I normally speak in Maltese, but in view of the presence here of persons who do not understand the Maltese language, I ask your indulgence and I will speak in English. It was a pleasure for me to be here with you for a number of reasons. First of all, as has been shown I would say by my government over recent years, we have been supporting in different ways and means the hobby, the passion, the love of motorsport organizations on the island. We have allocated land to different organizations, land which is prime site, land which has enormous commercial value, enormous value in itself, but you know, it's always a matter of choice. And we have decided in different circumstances and different situations to dedicate space to different sports, whatever they are, including motorsports. Now I start off with this point because it is very important for everyone to understand that the land in Malta is always at a premium. Every square inch is equivalent to large square miles in any other country if you take it proportionally. And therefore what is automatically feasible, reasonable in other countries is not automatically so in Malta. And therefore every single time we commit land in our island, that decision to commit must be carefully studied and considered against other options. I am a prime minister and I have to face choices. Do I need land for industry? Do I need land for factory space? Do I need land for areas which are required for office space? Do I need land for people to enjoy open space? Malta has this fantastic feature, surrounded by the sea. So our border is all beautiful land, prime site. Wherever you go, the whole border is prime site. And prime site, I would say, not just the border, but the whole island itself. So my first point is this: careful consideration needs to be put into the choices we have to make. You know, the fact that they are difficult choices doesn't mean that we do not do anything about it. It means simply that before we need to consider carefully. Now, I can tell you clearly, I had people meeting me proposing a Formula One racing track, and I indicated my skepticism to them, precisely because of some of the points that were made even in this presentation. You know, just a racing track on its own, especially if placed in an area which could cause the nuisance that has been mentioned by Mr. Mizzi, would in itself undermine the whole project. So it doesn't make sense itself, because if we are coming up with a project which starts off with a controversy, the viability and sustainability of the project will be put into question. So it does not make sense, and in all fairness, one must say that even the proposers themselves understood this point. Now what has happened, however, to suddenly make a proposal which so far has not been taken on board, in other words, a full-blown racing track. What has changed is a new approach, which was developed in recent times, where two major considerations were put on the table. And this is what made us, I talk us, I mean the government. I do not want to speak here as head of a political party. I don't think, even though I am in the midst of a campaign, and anything I say will certainly be interpreted in one way or another. But I am here this morning as Prime Minister. I am not here as leader of my party. So I am here as Prime Minister addressing a group of people, most of whom are dedicated to motorsports in one form or another, and others who are interested in following this concept, this debate, whether in favor or against, whether with skepticism or not. So please accept what I'm going to say as totally objective, not partisan at all. And I'm trying to be, I'm trying to be Maltese. I live on this island, and I want to continue to live here, and I want to continue seeing it succeed. I want to continue seeing it beautiful. I want to continue seeing it put on the map, and people, the region around us and the world, getting to know us for different areas, different aspects, different ingredients. And I don't want to do anything which is a mistake. Because once you commit land You cannot turn the clock back and say, well, sorry, I made a mistake, I cannot, I want to just pretend that nothing was done. So mistakes need to be avoided at all costs, and therefore sometimes, yes, it takes time to decide. Sorry, anyone who doesn't like this needs to understand that this is because we need to be careful in our decisions, and this is because we have learned such important lessons in the past. We've seen fortifications being dedicated to discos. We've seen old buildings becoming, something which is unheard of. And now to restore and give that building back to its original heritage and enjoying it as our patrimony takes millions of euros, takes a lot of time just to fix a mistake that was committed 20, 30 years ago. So we need to avoid that. So you have to understand, this needs to be carefully considered. Now, what has changed, however, therefore, made us reconsider a position? It is the fact that a proposal has been put on the table that addresses two major concerns. One of them is that the concept has now taken over, has been taken over by an added consideration of education. Education in road safety, education and training facilities in an area which we must admit this country requires. Have you ever met how in our streets, in our roads, people trying driving lessons in the middle of major traffic congestion, etc.? Of course, sometimes a driver needs to prove his or her talents in the midst of traffic, in the midst of major arterial roads. But is that the way? And do we need to remain the way we were 30 years ago, where to learn how to drive, you need to go in a parking lot, or you need to go, I don't know, in some area where you cause danger to somebody else? Again, because of our small size, because of our congestion, because of our density. One of the studies I remember that was presented to me a few years ago, I think 3 or 4 years ago, was a study about car density on our roads, which placed us first position in the whole of Europe. If I remember correctly, second position was Holland. We were 6 or 7 times worse than Holland. So top of the range as far as car density is concerned. And by the way, with all the complications that creates. And now in the midst of all that density, you have this activity going on, which is in itself an industry, which is in itself a small industry that operates practically independently. It's private sector, and which we want to support as well. So the idea of coming up with a concept that includes a new, or rather not a new, but a more modern, more well thought out facility that trains, educates, but also entertains. And we have this. We have facilities spread around the island where I know companies who want to, organize training courses for their own staff, include in those training courses events that take place in racing circuits in Malta. Small go-karting, small facilities, and this is part of training programs. So if we can upgrade all those facilities and create something that is holistic and addresses a number of issues, then it starts to make sense. Now, I must admit as well, I have always insisted with everyone, whoever comes with these fantastic ideas on my table, show me the feasibility. I want to know if this is going to work from a business point of view. Will it be sustainable, or will you be knocking on our doors every single year, where if the government doesn't fund us, we are going to close shop? And that is unacceptable. So if it is true that this concept is in itself sustainable, interesting to the private sector is prepared to invest, there is a projected cash flow which indicates that the project is doable, it is financially viable, then yes, we will consider it. Of course, the project will have one big advantage, because if government is going to allocate land, well, you have your first major capital investment requirement, which is not private, it's public. So there is the contribution there. But okay, we're prepared to see this. And from what I've seen so far, but I need to see more, at this stage, from a concept point of view, I have myself changed my position and considered this proposal with a holistic service there, including the road safety and training facilities, as a concept that can be carefully considered, should be considered, because it is a requirement which we need on this island. The next phase is to make sure that it is feasible and viable. However, before these first and second phases, there is a major consideration. And the point made by Mr. Mifsud, which was well addressed by Norbert, I think, but I'm sorry, I could not get your surname. I stopped on your first name, if you don't mind. But the point made regarding noise pollution is a major consideration. Yes, I agree. And unless we are convinced, and I am sure our authorities, including MEPA and all the rest, are convinced that this will not create noise pollution, then it will only take off the ground, and we can only move forward if there are real solutions to this issue. And I think there are, which we can cushion as well, as has been, as rightly pointed out, by the choice of the area. Of course, it depends where you put this facility. If you put it close to an inhabited area, you're going to face these problems, and therefore the solutions will again mean, will the project remain viable? Will it remain sustainable? Problems can be sorted out, but there's always money being put into solving the problem. And then the question arises whether the whole project will remain viable. But again, the indications I have are that there are solutions, and the location of one site which we are carefully considering, and I can confirm that we have identified an area which I can say is, oh yes, close to the airport, is something that could fit into the whole concept of this proposal. Otherwise, had I not been convinced, or had we not been convinced of all these parameters, we would have continued to explain to everyone that there are difficulties in implementing this project. At this stage, I think you have come up with an innovative way of putting something forward to Malta that is an added value for us. And the added value would be all the other benefits that were listed in the presentations. So it's not only about the motorsport, but it's also about the entertainment business. It's also about, in a sense, a certain level of tourism or niche tourism that could be attracted to this project if managed well and marketed well. And the fact that this proposal now has the backing of international organizations of repute and with a lot of experience, as you have seen even in the presentations, that in itself is already augurs very well for the whole feasibility and viability of this proposal. So I don't want to take too much of your time. I just wanted to pass these few remarks to you. But I do sincerely think that now, once the elections will be over, we need to take this project forward. Again, please, I urge you to work on the financials of this. You need to persuade whoever is in government that the financial case, the business case, is solid and that it can stand on its 2 feet. The land will have to be analyzed very carefully from an environmental point of view, and by environmental I mean as well noise pollution, and it needs to pass all those tests. And then, if all that fits in together, I can assure you this will be a project which Malta will be proud of. So thank you very much.
For sure, I didn't know what Dr. Gonzo was going to mention, because basically I'd like to emphasize even further what has been stated. We feel that having shown this interest, we can all be stakeholders in this project, looking ahead at improving drivers' ability on our roads, with the main objective being to minimize road accidents, plus creating a safe environment, a safe racing environment for all those that have a passion for cars. I have a quote. It doesn't come from a racing driver, but from a notorious Italian writer, which states, "The darkest places in hell are reserved for those who maintain their neutrality in time of moral crisis." So please reflect. We feel that yes, it is the time to take decision. Many were those that turned a blind eye on ambitious projects where motorsport was mentioned, but now it's time to stand up and be counted. Do we want this project? Definitely yes. Do you want this project? Then support us. I'd like to thank you for spending this time with us. I hope that once you leave this business breakfast, You'll definitely get good things and good ideas about motorsport, about road safety, and what we all are doing for the benefit of the sport. Once more, I thank you all.